I still remember the first time I saw Kyle, standing in the rain, soaked to the bone, clinging to his father's arm like it was the last safe thing in the world. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old then, a pale and wary child who carried too much weight in his eyes for someone so young. That boy would grow up to call someone else mom, but at that moment, all I saw was a child who needed a safe place to land. When I met Jasper, he was already a single father. His marriage to Cece, Kyle's biological mother, had ended in chaos. Cece's drinking had turned their home into a storm. Jasper had told me how many nights he had come home to find Kyle hungry, dirty, and alone, while Cece was passed out on the couch with a bottle at her side. At first, I thought Jasper exaggerated. It's hard to imagine a mother choosing alcohol over her child, but as I got closer to him, I realized it wasn't a story. It was a wound that had shaped both of their lives. Jasper had tried everything to keep his family together back then. Therapy appointments, ultimatums, quiet pleading in the middle of the night. He begged Cece to get help. Not for him, but for Kyle. But Cece lived inside a world of her own. She wasn't the nurturing kind of broken. She was the kind that left everyone else bleeding too. The breaking point came when Cece stole Jasper's mother's jewelry. She was desperate for alcohol money. She thought her drunkenness would excuse everything. But Jasper's mother, a sharp, no-nonsense woman, saw through the excuses. That night, she told Cece she'd call Child Protective Services if things didn't change. Cece threatened suicide, as she often did when cornered. But Jasper's mother didn't flinch. For the first time, Cece realized her chaos had limits. She packed a bag that night, left a short note on the kitchen table, and disappeared. No goodbye. No explanation. Just absence. Jasper raised Kyle alone after that. Cece signed away her parental rights in exchange for a payout, like she was giving away an unwanted pet. Kyle didn't even get to say goodbye. One day she was his mother, and the next she was just a shadow on the wall. By the time I came into their lives, Jasper had built a quiet, fragile world around his son. He worked long hours, came home tired, and tried to hold it together. But Kyle was wary of me from the beginning. He had already lost one mother. He wasn't about to trust another. I understood that, so I didn't try to replace anyone. I started with the smallest things, making his favorite breakfast on weekends, showing up for every school event, sitting with him through his homework, even when he snapped at me. I knew every ounce of warmth had to be earned. It took years. But slowly, brick by brick, Kyle let me in. When Jasper proposed to me, it was Kyle's blessing that meant the most. He had been 13 then, awkward, guarded, but slowly softening. He stood at our wedding, gave a shy little speech about how happy he was to see his father smiling again. I had cried through my vows, not just because I loved Jasper, but because I had finally been accepted as part of a family. But life is not a straight line. Teenage years hit Kyle like a hurricane. All the pain he'd buried from his childhood came roaring back. He lashed out at Jasper, at me. He blamed his father for his mother's absence. He accused me of taking his place in Jasper's heart. I remember one night, he came home smelling like alcohol, slamming doors, shouting that I wasn't his real mom and never would be. That night, I sat alone on the staircase after he stormed into his room, and I cried silently, not because his words were new, but because they still hurt. Still, I never stopped showing up. I helped him transfer to a better school when he got expelled. I sat through parent-teacher conferences that weren't mine to attend. I watched him fail, rage, stumble, and slowly grow. He didn't know it, but I kept every note he ever wrote me. The Mother's Day cards he made in elementary school, he didn't know what else to call me, so he just wrote my name in big letters. The thank you text he sent the day I helped him move into his first apartment. The late-night messages asking for advice when he was too embarrassed to talk to Jasper. He never said the word mom again after his teenage years, but he didn't have to. His actions were enough. Or so I thought. Years passed. Kyle became a man. He fell in love with Serena, a bright, kind woman who saw through all his sharp edges. I liked her immediately. She was the sort of woman who carried warmth like a lamp, illuminating every room she entered. Their engagement felt like a second chapter for all of us. I helped Serena plan the wedding, choosing flowers, tasting cakes, picking out linens. I paid for half of it without hesitation, not because I had to, but because this was my boy's wedding. But everything shifted again when Cece resurfaced. Kyle had sought her out in his early 20s. It was his right. I knew he needed answers. He found her living with another man, with 2 more children, still drinking. She didn't offer him love. She offered him an apology wrapped in excuses. And Kyle, being the boy with the soft heart I had raised, forgave her. Cece didn't want a relationship. She wanted money. And Kyle, desperate for a connection, gave it. Month after month. I tried to warn him gently. Jasper tried harder. But when it came to Cece, Kyle built walls higher than any I had ever climbed. When Serena entered the picture, she saw what we saw. Cece's calls always came at the end of the month, always with a story. Rent short, a sick child, a broken car. And Kyle always sent money. Serena loved Kyle, but she also saw the future, how Cece's grip could poison their marriage. When she told him he needed to set boundaries, Kyle fought her like a cornered animal. But Serena didn't back down, and eventually, neither did he. Their wedding day should have been the happiest day of my life. I sat in the front row, my heart full, watching the boy I'd raised walk down the aisle with the woman he loved. I had spent months making sure every detail was perfect. His suit, the flowers, the food, the venue. But when Kyle stood to make his speech, I realized love can also break in silence. He thanked Jasper for being his rock. He thanked Cece for being the only mother who ever truly loved him. He didn't even glance at me. The applause filled the room like a wave. But all I could hear was the roaring in my ears. I had raised him. I had fed him, held him through nightmares, driven him to rehab visits, forgiven every cruel word he'd ever thrown at me. And in front of a room full of people, I had simply disappeared.